All right, before we get into it, I want to introduce you guys to a special guest, someone that I personally know as a brother, a friend, just an overall amazing human being. Some things that I've been super excited about with my podcast is rolling it out, but I felt like I couldn't do it without bringing this guy as my first person on a podcast because he's seen me from day one, from literally from the rags to where I'm at now, and so it only is right to making sure that we get his story because a lot of his story is typically my story that I want to talk about, and so some things that I want to share about this guy is pretty fun to actually see this come full circle. This guy's the life of the party. Like when I tell you guys, when the music comes on, there's only one guy that's dancing, and it's Big Side. Second thing is energy. I mean, the energy that he has is contagious. A lot of what we do today cannot be done because it can't be replicated just because of who he is, and that's his energy. He's a religious individual. One thing I know about this guy is he always puts God first in everything he does. He loves his faith. You know, being LDS, being of the faith, is important. Served a 2-year mission in the Philippines.
Sir.
Um, I've learned a lot about the Philippines. Haven't been there, but there's a lot of things that he's experienced on his mission. And man, my guy loves clapping it up. You know, hitting up the kava. For a lot of you guys who don't haven't had kava, kava is a traditional drink that we take in the Tongan culture. And he's a big family man, and he loves sports. I think one of the things I've noticed with this guy is if it's sports, my man knows his stuff. And with that said, I want to introduce y'all to my boy, the guy, the legend, the Toko Sosaika. Welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Hey, and it's my birthday
And it's
today.
your birthday.
I didn't even expect to be here,
Yeah.
but it's an honor to be here with you on your first podcast. You know, I don't know what to expect, but I'm just excited to be here. I've seen where we came from and where we are today. Obviously, we're not at our limit, but we're getting there.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's a pleasure to
it's
be
fun to
here.
see kind of how things have gone, right? Before we talk about the story side, obviously, I think what's really important to the listeners that are listening to this is I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing. I think you know who we see today on social media and IG. Everybody knows big swaggy Sai, but I want to talk a little bit about your upbringing. Kind of walk me through back Saya at an early age. What was like your childhood like?
Childhood, like obviously, I'm a big guy, so one big like thing, and I'm gonna be vulnerable here, is I've always been a big boy. You know, been fat. You know, I've been insecure about my body, but I really embraced it. You know, but for me, it was just more of being really loud and always joking around, having a fun time, spending time with my family. But just growing up, you know, I remember a time where I wasn't even able to play football because of how much I weighed. You know, I was always
You a
bigger.
big boy, huh?
I was always a big boy, and they always had a weight limit, and that kind of discouraged me. You know, but just going through all that stuff as a kid to where I am now, it's really laid a foundation of my identity.
And you talk about identity. I think one of the things that I will probably say, I love the most about your upbringing is talk to me about your parents. You know, how long have your parents been married? I think that's something that attains to who you are today. And how much has that been influential as far as you being who you are today?
Yeah, my parents, they play a big role in the person I am today. They've been together for, I would say, about 45 years plus.
Yeah.
Been together for a while. They're the way they met was really crazy. Basically, my grandpa, my mom, and my dad's dad, they were friends. They worked in the temple together, and it was basically like a arranged marriage. Uh, but the values that my dad has taught me when I was a kid about knowing who you are, where you come from, and always putting God first has really resonated with me when I'm older now. You know, I'm able to always put God first in every decision I make. Just being taught to, um, everything I have isn't mine. You know,
Well, you talked about faith, right? And I think that's one thing I want to touch on this episode is um, inspiration through faith. And so I look back at You talked about your dad, right? One of the things that I know about your dad is how much God means to him and to the family. What 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 did that do for you as a young kid, seeing that and then seeing your dad? I think your dad was a bishop. Like,
Yeah,
talk to me a little bit about like what role did he serve in your life at that age, being able
yeah.
to see your dad at that
So my
level.
dad, like I was blessed to have a dad present in my life. He was my football coach. He was my young men's advisor. He was a bishop. Uh, he even helped out like in basketball, just like always present. But just having him there and being a God fearing man, uh, that really taught me to put my priorities. You know what I'm saying, and to show up. Be a man of your word. And he taught me what real hard work was. There was a lot of times where I didn't want to wake up. He would make us run a mile every day. It would be getting late at night, sun going down. I'm like, hey, my dad forgot about us running a mile. Tell us like, hey, before you eat dinner, go run the mile. He always hold me accountable, because he know that I had a big, potential. He always saw our potential, and he always hold us accountable to uh, goals
Yeah.
and to standards.
So for the listeners that are listening in, LDS, right? We grew up LDS in the faith. Um, and I want us to talk a little bit and be vulnerable, but like, how was it growing up Tongan, but also in the LDS household?
Yeah,
And talk about some of the cultural things that most people like typically think about. Like, how was that dynamic for you and your family at a young age? Like, how did that play out?
yeah, man.
Like,
Like
walk me through like what was life like being Mormon and then obviously being Tongan, because
Tongan,
you know how Tongans are, man. They're definitely strict, but then being LDS,
yeah, like being a Tongan and then being LDS. Like I feel like the faith and the culture were like one, you know, and that's like what kind of like it really I made me recognize who my identity is. But obviously it was difficult growing up in Hemet, California, where there's not a lot of people that look like me around. So just growing up, people thought I was black or, Dominican, but they didn't know who Tongan people were. But just to, show people who we are as a people, like where my parents are from, being first generation out here in the United States, was awesome. Sharing my culture with other people, like today, I'm able to introduce kava to people that don't even know, like, oh, what is that, you know what I'm saying? But just to open up the door for people to understand where we come from and how our faith, our people in Tonga, how like our faith is like one with God. Even in Tonga right now, they don't everything's closed on Sunday, so like faith in God and religion and culture, it's
yeah.
all one.
And that's one
uh
thing I remember about like this guy living in Hemet, right? Hemet is like, if you guys don't know what Hemet is like literally in like the desert, like.
yeah, it's in the
So
desert,
like
man.
us Tongans that came into to from Tonga, right? A lot of our parents, we migrated from Tonga. We came to like LA, right?
Or the
And
Bay
the Bay
Area, yeah.
Area. And a lot of it was because the jobs we could get was like either at the airport, it was like um, helping out with the elderly, right?
Yeah, or just like honestly, like what our grandpa did
Yeah.
was it's called yate, but it's like being a landscaper.
Yeah, and
You
that's
know what I'm
literally what
saying?
we could do because that's like we were really good with our hands.
Yeah.
But how the heck did you guys end up in Hemet? I still don't know the real story. Like, how did
Yeah.
you guys end up
So
from LA to freaking Hemet?
funny story. So this guy came all the way from Hemet. He went up to my dad in the Los Angeles temple.
Uh huh.
And he told him, hey, like I got a sign from God that you're supposed to come back to Hemet and work for me. So my dad, being a God fearing man, believed this white man that came up to him in the temple and was just like, "Hey, you're gonna come back 2.5 hours from where they were at, relocate his whole family," and that's where it all started. Was from that conversation.
Just a conversation.
Yeah,
So at the temple, literally just had an
yeah,
epiphany and was
yeah.
like,
He's like,
boom.
God told me that you're supposed to come and work for me. So he taught my dad how to be an electrician. That's what started my dad's career. And then he's been an electrician for
And
like
I
40
think
plus
I think
years.
that's one of the things I want to touch on for a bit is your dad was an electrician. Coming straight from the islands into the U.S. Like, what was the like financial side of the family? Like, did you guys was your dad making a lot of money at the time? Like, how did you guys grow up? Because I like as a kid when I used to come to your house, like you guys had the nice toys,
Yeah,
and you guys always had food ready on the table. But like, how were your parents putting food on the table at that
yeah,
time?
man. God's blessings, man. I can't deny it. There's people around us that helped our family like make it past, make it through the month. And the one thing that my parents always taught me, even if they didn't have enough money to make ends meet, they always paid their tithing, which is 10% of all their income. My dad didn't have a really good job. There's seven of us. We always took a lot of other family members into our home, so our
Yeah.
home would always have 15 people or 20 people in our house. But because my parents trusted God and always, gave 10% of their earnings to him, they were able to come by. We had a lot of families. Shout out to the Tibbets and the Miners. These are wealthy people out there in Hemet that helped our family um, just make it by and gave back to us, and our family was able to make it through the hard times.
And I think what's important to as we look back at like how you grew up, right? Growing up in Hemet, predominantly all white. Like it's crazy to go back to Hemet now because if a lot of you guys have been to Hemet, Hemet now is like it's pretty ghetto, right? It's
Yeah,
like it's gone down
a lot
from
of
like where
Section
it
8
was 20
housing
years
out
ago.
there. Yeah,
But I one of the things I've always noticed as a kid, looking, coming to visit, my sister literally went to Hemet High,
yeah.
and every Sunday I still remember this, but we'd drive from LA all the way to Hemet, and we would drop her off on literally Sunday night, and we would drive right back. But one of the things that I always saw was, um, I feel like your parents always had a hustle. Like they always had a way of just figuring things out. I mean, I would see your dad literally working. He would do like side jobs. He would be an electrician at the school district. But I want to talk about your mom,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Because your
man.
mom is she's whooped me like probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
I got whooped as a kid by your mom, and I used to think your mom was so freaking mean. But I look back at how she was. Like, what influence did your mom have in that household?
dang. Like to where I'm at today, I think I get a lot of my traits from my mom.
Okay,
Back in those days, uh, my mom like took care of old people. Obviously, there's like government funding with that, and for each person you get, that was her side hustle. She had like two homes open, three homes at one time. Um, but obviously, she always had like a entrepreneur state of mind. Like, there's always different ways you can
so like, what
make
were some of the
income.
things that she was doing like to as an entrepreneur? Because I mean, your mom literally just like she just remodeled a house in like L.A., like right by the Ram Stadium,
Yeah,
and it's like appraised at 1 million now. So like, and your mom didn't go to college or anything like that. Like, where do you think she learned that stuff?
I don't know. I think it's just being an entrepreneur. She learned from our grandpa. Shout out to Shona Tonga. He's the first one that started knocking doors and just being an entrepreneur, being his own boss.
Yeah.
But for her, she always thought out of the box, right? What she was able to do is she bought the house, I think in the 80s for about $60,000. Um, but she's the one that was on the title of the home, and now she still owns the home. But she took a different savings and money aside to just put it together to remodel the home, and now it's a total, you've probably seen pictures or you've been there. It's
Yeah.
like a different place now, and now she's Airbnb it out, and just making it an asset for our family. She says, she doesn't have much money, but this is one thing that she can leave with our family is an asset of a home, that we can continue to make money off of when she passes.
So did she like? Where did you learn money? Like, was that from your mom? Was that from your dad? Like, where did you guys start learning about investing and money?
My mom,
Okay.
she still does like a lot of investing. She does crypto. Like, who knows a 70-year-old that does crypto? My mom's like constantly like always looking for ways to make money. So I think that's just the state of mind. Like, and I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
If my mom was the breadwinner of our family, I think she would be a millionaire right now. But ever since my dad has like retired, she's been investing in things, putting money back into stuff, taking out loans, and just moving money around. And she put me on some games too
Yeah.
for financial. So that's awesome.
So you talked about entrepreneurship, and I think this is something that kind of hits home because we as Tongans, right? We were always kind of taught to just kind of play it safe. Just hey, go get a cement job, go be construction, or go to school or go play in the NFL. Right, that was kind of like the play it safe method. Um, what like where did you learn? Like, did your mom have that growing up, or did she ever teach that to you guys as kids of like dream bigger, go do bigger? Because I want to talk about like transitioning into like where you are now, right? You served a mission,
Yeah.
and which we'll talk about in a minute. I think a lot of viewers will like, listeners will like your story, but you had to go to BYU, right? You
Yeah.
played football there.
Hmm.
She wasn't happy. She wasn't happy when you dropped out of college.
Yeah. She was happy when I
So like,
dropped out of
her being an
college. Yeah.
entrepreneur and you being able to do that, like, did you guys see eye to eye on that? Like, where were the indifferences, and then where did you guys kind of like agree to like, cool, I'm not doing the college route. I'm gonna go do the entrepreneur route. And how's that right now?
Yeah, man. It's come a long way. But my mom, she doesn't like it because she sees a lot of the traits that I have are similar to her. So the reason why, a lot of going back to our culture,
Yeah.
Tongans that come to this country, they just think, hey, let's go to school, get a good job, become a doctor. That's the same thing they do every time. And that's her mindset. That was her mindset, was just like, hey, you need to go to school. But just understanding how everything works now. Um, when I dropped out of college,
What were you doing before college again?
I was moving pianos. I've had every job. I've done trucking. I've done landscaping. I did entertaining, like where we do luau's, um, moving, like every job you could think of. But I remember, Mana, you came to me
Yeah.
in a Corvette drop top, just pulled up and was like, "Hey, man, like I'm doing good." And you asked me, "Hey, are you happy where you're at right now?" And I'm like, "Yeah," but I didn't really think I had more to my potential. So that's why I dropped out. My mom hated that. She was
She hated me
angry.
too.
She hated you too.
She
She's
was
like, "Why are
mad
you
at me.
going to work with Mana? Like, what you guys are doing, like, it's not gonna work out. You need to go back to school. School's really important." But I just didn't see myself, going to school or working behind a desk.
Yeah.
I had a vision for myself, and it took some time, some failure, and some success to be where I'm at today. Now my parents, we have a really good relationship, and my mom supports me 100% where I'm at. It took some time, but I'm happy to be where I'm
Yeah,
at.
it's good. I mean, it's good to see it kind of come full circle because one story that I remember was, there's times where you came close to like, quitting this job
Yeah,
and quitting, door to door, and you could have played it safe. You could have definitely went back to Utah and got a 9 to 5, and definitely played it safe. But I think that's one of the things I respect the most about you, Saya, is the fact that you don't really listen to, you go against the grain a bit. Um, but you lean into like new things. And one of the things I want to touch on is you being Tongan, you being a big boy, and you getting in business. What was your mentality of like obviously being a minority, right? Being Tongan and being in business, like how did that shape up? Because not a lot of Tongans right now are in business, right? And it's kind of different because usually when we walk into a room, there's a certain stereotype that we got to fit, right?
yeah,
We have to have the shirt and tie, you know. There's a certain look, but typically when a Tongan walks into the room, they don't typically look at like, oh, this guy runs a business.
yeah. They're like,
Like,
"Hey, is this guy?"
what are some of the things that you kind of ran into when you started entering the realm of business that you kind of saw that's like, man, I don't, I want to change that.
Yeah, I think it all started with just being, the stereotypes of, hey, you're a big guy, you play football, you're just known for your body. Like when I was in college, like everyone's like, oh, these guys are just here just for a scholarship or just to play football. But for us, obviously, shout out to the Tongans that are killing it in the NFL. We have cousins in the NBA, cousins in PGA, Tony. Sports, big sports fans, right? But for us, it's like I feel like we have a higher calling, and just being in business is not being looked at as a sports person. But how we're able to transfer that mentality that we have in sports and apply it into business is how we're able to be where we're at today. So I think that's making that transformation and the transition in from sports to business. is
But
really
you know,
parallel.
you talk about business and you talk about okay, you know, being a minority or being Tongan, right? And I look at this from my lens. Like, do you feel like people take you seriously? You know, like, or do you feel like you have to work twice as hard to show people just because you're Tongan? Like, you know, in the business realm, right? Just I feel like me personally, I feel like not until we speak, and then they know like, hey, we can articulate, we can speak the language, and we can
Right.
understand business. But like, do you feel that way, where you feel like in business we got to work harder just because
We're
of
brown.
our back?
Yeah, 100%. We do have to work harder, you know, just being a minority. But I think that's what drives us, you know. When people see us, they just think like, hey, these guys are, you know, they're probably not that smart, you know, they're not
Yeah,
that educated, or they don't have enough experience, or they don't even have money, you know. But for us is I think just being an underdog, that's what pushes us. That's what pushes me every day is just like I like to prove people wrong, and I love just like, you know, going past the going against the grain, you know. There's a lot of people, you know, stereotypical things.
but you
So,
know, like, and I'm gonna get a little bit controversial here, but you know, in my opinion, you know, when you look at, you know, you got all that stuff going on where, you know, I think when we hired you on as a director, right? I think a lot of guys who came into the organization, they didn't really take you serious just because they see you as like, I don't know if I like that's the guy I gotta go be like. With all that stuff going on in the background, how did you stay true and authentic to yourself while still being able to do your job at a high level? That makes sense?
yeah, I think having people, you know, coming in like that.
Like insecurity, like,
Yeah,
you know, like there's an
insecurities.
insecurity of like, man, you know, I don't think this guy fits. Like, especially, you know, in door to door, I got into the game, right? And um I was like the only brown person. I was with 14 like white boys, and they're all my homies now, but I didn't just fit, I didn't fit. So like, you know, now that you're in this role, like how are you still able to be authentic and be yourself and stay grounded through it all?
Understanding my purpose, you know. My purpose is everything. Understanding why I'm here and what I'm here to do, right? And that is to obviously help young entrepreneurs, you know, gain that financial literacy and financial freedom. So, understanding my purpose and my passion, you know, like what I'm supposed to do. If I don't wake up every day and doing my job, guys aren't getting paid. They're not putting money on, they're not putting food on the table for their families. They're not able to pay their rent. So, understanding that and just being authentically myself and unapologetically myself, you know, sometimes there's times where I need to like, you know, dial down, but I feel like if I'm genuinely myself and authentic and I'm being real with people, they respect that, right? So gaining that respect, authenticity, and also just having a purpose and a passion. So
So
that's what
like,
helps
you
me.
know, with purpose and passion, I think, you know, was that something that you learned from the job, or I know you served a 2-year mission,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so you served in what part of the Philippines?
Cebu.
Cebu.
Yeah.
What's the language there?
They say Cebuano.
Cebuano.
Cebuano. Yeah.
You know, you serving in the Philippines in Cebu, you know, what are some of those experiences like? If you could look back at your mission on 2 years, um, where did you find purpose while serving the people of Cebu?
Where I found purpose, it was a near death experience. So I was driving in a jungle area with my companion in a van. We brought in a new missionary from Provo, Utah. It was his first day on the mission, and we are taking him to his area. On the way there, the wheel locked. My companion was driving, and the brakes wouldn't brake. So literally, that song "Jesus Take the Wheel." That's what happened. We couldn't really do anything. Ran straight into a light pole, and then um, our our van almost split open, but we went down a cliff, a couple 100 feet, and then got to the bottom. No one was hurt. No one was wearing their seatbelt. At that moment, I knew that I had a purpose. I knew that God has a plan for me, and there's a reason why I'm still alive. So I got to go out there and I got to live it.
If you look back at you know, the service aspect, I think that's one of the things that you're really great at is serving. Um, do you think that the mission was a lot to do with that? Like, where did you learn that attitude or of service or giving?
Yeah, man, it's just seeing people in a third world country. Um,
What was like what was the living situations
they
like?
like they lived in like huts. They had the floor was dirt. They couldn't afford things, but to see how humble these people were when they would feed us, they wouldn't even eat the food. They would be like, "We want the blessings from God. You guys are gonna eat this food so we can get blessed." Just to see that really humbled me. To see like, man, I'm not out here just telling people about my religion. I'm out here serving people because God has called me to be here. You know, so understanding that it's more than just the material things, but that's what I go out there every day today is just looking for opportunities that I can serve people and make their life a better, a better place here on earth.
And I think that's always like every time I hear your mission stories, and I'm like, I didn't get to serve a mission. Obviously, I was a kid. I was a dad at 18, so
Uh-huh.
I had to serve a mission for 18 years. I'm still serving that mission with Madden.
You're doing a great job, man.
It's a year by year. Shout out to Madden. But I look back at it and I'm like, I think that's one of the things I sit down with a lot of uh, elders that have served a mission, and I look at their stories and I see like, okay, why they are the way they are, and I see why they're so persistent in what they do, and segueing that into like to business, right? And talk in this career that you're in now, it's kind of coincidence your birthday,
Yeah.
but you doing this for what 4 years, 4 years,
5 years, 5 years
5 years.
now. Yeah.
We're almost there to a decade. Um, I want to get it vulnerable, man. There was a time where you know you were gonna break. You almost had the opportunity to throw in a towel and call it quits. Let's go back to that time
Yeah.
and like tell me how you were feeling during that time and like what was really going through your mind, especially during that dark stage, and why was like where was all that emotion coming from?
Man, it was a lot of emotions. Like I was going through a breakup, 2 year relationship. I was broke. Um, we were celebrating my mom's 70th birthday. All my siblings were helping out, and I had no money to kind of, you know, help out, And solar was, in California, it was kind of going down. We had a lot of installers going out of business. There was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of money that I missed out on, So mentally, I was, down financially, and then even spiritually, man, I felt like I was like far away from God, you know. So all aspects of life, I felt like I was at an all-time low, um, and it was tough.
You know, I look back at that day, right? I remember being up here in Washington in Tri Cities. I think you were back in California. I mean, you talked about your 70th birthday. I remember this was like during the time of Christmas.
Mm,
And I remember, man, you gave me a call, and I remember you gave me the call, and I remember stepping outside. I think my son was like a month
mm-hmm.
old, and it threw me by surprise because you were like, "Hey, man, I need to really talk to you." And I was like, um, I get emotional about it because you were like I think I want to quit. I just remember like the I couldn't see you, but like
Mm-hmm.
I could hear through your tone of voice, like
Mm-hmm.
the pain that you're going through because you talked about you being broke. You're talking about I couldn't even pay for anything for your family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, during that time that you were going through, man, did you ever like think to yourself like I'm built for this, or like what kept you like going? Because you mean at that time, man, you could literally just hung up the phone and be like, "Look, bro, it's been fun,"
Yeah.
but like, what kept you going?
What kept me going? It was you, man. I'm gonna be 100% like honest, not because of the podcast or anything, but you're the one that still believed in me. You told me, "Hey, we're gonna go work with this new company. Just come out and give it a try, man. Like no pressure. Just come out there. The worst you could do is make some money. Just one last hoorah. And that's why I'm just so grateful was because no one believed in me. I didn't even believe in myself, but you still did. So that's what kept me moving every day. It was just like, dang man, like Mana believes in me. You know what I'm saying? He's always believed in me. But to really empower myself from from everything you've given me and like all advice and game, uh, I just put that to work. I looked at myself and I was like, you know what? If I quit today, will, is will I look back and regret it and know, hey, is there something else more I could have done? And that's why I still don't quit, is because I know there's still gas in the tank. There's still room for improvement, and I can keep pushing. 'Cause I'll never look back and regret it.
I remember, like, because after that phone call, you know, I was like, "Is this guy coming?" Because we were in Portland, remember?
Yeah.
We're in Portland, and I'm like, "Hey, man, you probably should fly out to Portland. I'll pick you up." And I didn't think you were gonna show up. I didn't think you were gonna show up. I remember pulling up to Portland. I was picking up another rep, and then lo and behold, was our guy in his leopard Nike suit, jumpsuit. And he was there, and I was like, man, he's like serious. And I just remember like there was this change in just um the sense of urgency that I knew that you were out there to for a reason.
Mhm.
And I don't know what I just remember that whole time you were out there working, there was just a different mentality that you tapped into. And then just seeing where you are now, come from that day, it's been honestly, bro, it's been cool to just sit back and have a front row ticket and watch it to see where you are now. You learned you talked about it wasn't about the money, you
Mhm.
know. Coming from there to be able to get out of debt, you had credit card debt. We talked
Mhm.
about that. You were able to get yourself out of the financial hole. But it was a little bit deeper for you. And that's one thing I noticed about you, Sai, is it's never about the money, it's about your purpose. When did you start feeling fulfillment in this job? Like, what was that turning factor? Was it the job? Was it like, the leadership aspect of it?
No, man, I love talking about this because, like, the turning point was not able to just to see my bank account go up and see my personal life get better, and developing, like personal development, but to see the guys around me um, become better people, you know, and also guys around me growing personally and also seeing it in their bank accounts, you know. And that's one thing that I've learned from you is don't focus on the money, focus on growing yourself. Because when you grow yourself, the income is just a byproduct of your personal development. So that's one thing I've learned, and that's when it became fun, was seeing the guys around me able to reap the benefits of their labor, the fruits of their labor, to see them be successful, to see them able to provide for their families. That's when I gain purpose in what I do every day.
I mean, you look at all the reps you've trained to like a lot of reps,
Yeah.
a lot of setters. I mean, dude, that's one of the things that, this guy is the aspect or the epitome of what service is. I mean, you're here at the warehouse at 8 in the morning sharp. You're here sometimes, all the way just
Yeah.
serving, serving, serving. If you look back at like what's one of your like all time favorite stories of like leadership when you look at like the growth of reps, like if you have, is there anything that you look back at your journey in leadership and you look like, man, this was a cool thing to impact this rep?
To see where they are
Yeah,
today,
see where they are today.
uh,
You look back.
it would have to be Nathaniel Otis, man. Like, crazy story though, but like I was in there pitching his family.
Yeah.
Ding Ding knocked on their door, and he came and knocked on your window trying to sell you a
Cadillac.
Cadillac
Not
car.
happening.
Um, but to see him, like able to help his family and then help him when he first started, this guy was just like, it was tough, it was really hard for him. And then he had a kid. He was struggling in the job, in this job, he didn't know if he can do it. And I told him, like, man, I believe in you, you know, the same way that you believed in me. I told him my story, and just sharing that story of, hey, I was going to quit, but Mana believed in me and I believe in you. And I know you can do this job. All the way that fast forward to this year to seeing him be the top setter in Suntria, you know, he made like 34K last month. To see where he's at, able
Killed
to
it.
provide for his family, for his daughter, uh, that was probably like the best experience ever as a leader.
Seeing Nate.
Seeing
Yeah, it's
Nate,
funny. It's
yeah,
funny to see how, what Nate was able to do in 1 year, just in his growth. I mean, yeah, and I remember he knocked on my Tesla window trying to sell me a cat. It's a Cadillac
Cadillac,
Escalade,
yeah,
and it was like maybe 25 degrees outside.
yeah.
I mean, this cat was like wearing a suit.
Wearing a
I was
suit,
like,
yeah,
bro, what are you wearing? And he came, knocked on my door, and he's like, trying to pitch me on a suit. And I was like, there's something about this kid that I probably need to go talk to. And I look back at like when we sat down with the parents, we were looking at, hey, your son is like ambitious. We probably just need to get him in a different vehicle. No pun intended.
Yeah,
And to see him transition from McCurley's dealership to come do this, and to see kind of his life change in 1 year is cool.
yeah.
Um, we talked about your upbringing. We talked about business, and obviously being Tongan in business. For a lot of those who are like listening in, what would be your advice to someone that's brand new, or maybe doesn't want to take the leap or take the risk, but is like on the fence? What advice would you give that person about becoming an entrepreneur?
Bet on yourself. You know, um, when all the odds are against you, bet on yourself. You know, because at the end of the day, no one's gonna come and save you. You know what I'm saying? You got to save yourself. So that's my biggest advice for entrepreneurs is just have a good attitude, be grateful. You know, whenever you're in a low place, be grateful for what you do have. You know, this last month, of my life, having my aunt pass away, my cousin got shot and killed, just having people getting sick around me and people passing away, just not taking things for granted, be grateful for what you do have and help other people around you, you know, just reach their goals,
So what do you think, like what like for brand new people who are getting into this, what do you think is something that they should expect, not fear?
failure.
So you
Expect failure, That's one thing that I used to hate, but I love it today is because failure is how you learn. Failure is how you get better. Failure is how you grow and become successful. If you look at any person that has a successful business, they have all failed.
That'd be the one advice you'd give someone brand new, is just expect to fail,
Yeah,
huh?
expect to fail, but learn from it, right?
But don't quit.
But don't quit. Yeah, don't quit. Expect to fail, but learn from it. Every opportunity is a lesson, right? Like I tell every rep that knocks the door, when someone tells you no, that's just an opportunity for you to learn and to grow.
So what's the goals for you in 2026? What type of legacy are you looking to go build? What's the 40,000 foot view for Big Sci?
Man, I want to buy a house. I want to have a family. And I want to get married in the temple. That's one thing that I'm working on right now, personally.
Okay.
And financially, my goal for this year is 300,000. So if I'm able to, help people get what they want, and need in life, that will give me what I'm looking for, And obviously, the money is to help the people around me, my family, the community, um, to make the world a better place. You know what I'm saying? But for me, is I need to get married. It's my birthday. I'm getting old.
See this
But
guy at Daisy Ranch tonight. Yep.
no, I will not be there. But it's just making sure the goals that I have, I'm
Yeah.
like, with you, you're my accountability partner, is
Yeah.
making sure I'm working towards those goals and hitting those goals personally, spiritually, physically. Another big thing was us, going on a weight loss journey, me and you going to the gym every day, dropping some weight.
Man, we were some big
We were
boys,
some big
man. I'm not
guys.
gonna lie.
Like
This
we're
guy
still
showed me.
big. I'm
He
still
showed me a
big.
picture at I was like I think it was in March. I
Yeah,
was literally
last
over
year.
like I looked at a picture and I was like, I don't know who that guy is. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's
to see where we're at now,
do
but
me a favor, delete that picture.
I will, man.
I think I was like, man, that's a
But that's part of personal development,
yeah.
man. So
And I think one of the things as entrepreneurs that a lot of people don't really think about, and I want to hear from you, because this is the part where I think is the hardest part, is the mindset, but the mental health aspect, right? Being an entrepreneur, and then having the cards stacked against you, not for you, but still being able to have like a positive mindset. What advice would you give someone that's going through like doubt, or they're like doubting themselves on like, dude, I don't know if I can do this. If you could like talk to them, what is one thing that you would tell them to like to focus on to get out of that slump?
man, getting out of a slump, huh? Is
Like when
lean.
you're in a dark moment, I don't I still remember this. You talked about your breakup. I mean, if we're okay, we talk about this.
Yeah,
Let's get
yeah, yeah,
vulnerable here. But you remember, I remember that time you were in a dark place where you didn't want to get out of bed. You just felt like you lost all motivation. I remember
yeah,
like in LA going up the in downtown. I remember like going up the stairs and just pitch black dark.
yeah.
But what are some of the things that you did, and then what advice would you give to someone that maybe is going through the same experience?
Number one is to feel it. You got to feel it. If you don't feel your emotions, you're gonna bottle that up and you're gonna carry that with you wherever you go. So that's the first thing is you just got to recognize what you're going through and accept it. Number two is have a village. You know what I'm saying? Like have people around you that support you, and then also lean on a higher power. You know, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ. He atoned for our sins for a reason, and for all our, everything that we're not perfect beings, but if we lean on Him for strength, He will help us get through any trial that we go through, and that's what helped me was number one, feeling it, leaning on my village, which is my family, my brothers, and then number three, which is most important, is just leaning on God. You know, if you lean on a higher source, that gives you hope, that gives you faith of things are going to get better. You know, so anyone going through a hard time, just know you're not alone. God loves you, and there's people out there that care about you. You know, and if you are in a dark place, it's not a problem. There's no issue being in those dark places, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I'm saying? The storm, every storm ends. You know what I'm saying? When it's nighttime, the sun's gonna come out the next day. So for me, it's just being optimistic. That's how I have a good attitude and how I look at things. It's not the situation, it's how I look at it, right? Your your perception is your reality. That's one thing you always taught me.
Yeah, life is isn't happening at you; it's happening for you. And I love the one of the quotes that I would share is, "In the darkest nights, the brightest stars shine."
Right.
So I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is a great time to just sit down. It's my guy's birthday, so it's only right that we celebrate, give him his flowers. I just want to let you guys know how much this guy means to me as far as working with him for the last 5 years. This guy saw me literally at my all time low. I think some people don't really see. They see Instagram, they see like, oh, the nice stuff, but people don't really understand like where we came from. I look back at the times where we slept on the floor on a bunk bed in a two-story apartment in 88th and Broadway. For a lot of you guys who don't know where 88th and Broadway is, that's right where the Rolling 60 Crips are.
South Central,
South Central. My mom still lives there to this day.
next to Figueroa Street.
We grew up in the projects. Yeah, they're knocking
Yeah.
doors. And to see where we've leveled up, I love the phrase, you got to sleep on couches before you step on couches. You
Yes,
know,
sir.
so if you guys can get anything from this, I think a lot of listeners listening out there is just believe in yourself, put God first in everything that you do, and it's always gonna work out if you put God first in everything that you do, and have the faith and the vision and the purpose,
Hmm.
you'll make it. Appreciate y'all.